Well, it happened! One of the biggest villains in League's universe just got a big expansion to his lore, full of amazing new followers and even more excitement that leads up to the totally not overhyped MMO. So, when Mordekaiser was revealed to be part of the next Legends of Runeterra expansion, everyone rejoiced! Right? Well, so, a few days ago, Riot started revealing the latest Legends of Runeterra expansion titled Fate's Voyage Beyond. From the early teasers, we speculated that Mordekaiser and Morgana are gonna be part of it, with the last champion being up in the open. Though many people believed that Elder Dragon would fit all of the other new Draconic cards. So, yeah, that might as well be happening right now, because you can clearly see the Elder Dragon in the background of all the promotions. So he might become another new unique champion. But more on that next time, because today we are talking about what was already revealed. You see, first we got a timeline. From November 27th to the 29th, we would get videos about the different champions. Which means that today, around the time this video goes live, the last champion will be revealed. Probably being the Elder Dragon. But we will also get to see all the cosmetics. Then tomorrow, the full set will be revealed. That's when we'll really dive into all the new cards. And after that, they will talk more about all the new mechanics, with the whole expansion coming out on December the 6th. Now, the first thing you may notice on this timeline is Neela. Yes, that's right, we are not done with her adventures. In fact, the entire voyage is all about Neela, so whatever is the next expansion gonna be, she will probably still be there. Which, considering today's video, what is gonna happen to her? Yeah, we still don't know what happened between her and Volibear. In general, people don't believe either side had won. Maybe it ended in a draw, which is funny because seemingly right after that, Neela moved on to another fight. And this time it is the most hyped and destructive villain that can be classified as a mortal, Mordekaiser. That's right, one of the most anticipated characters got in. But unfortunately, it wasn't a flawless entry. So before we dive into what's around him, let's talk about Mordekaiser's new design first. First of all, it is important to mention one thing. Mordekaiser didn't need a visual update. This is something most people agree on. The original Mordekaiser was amazing. Okay, maybe not the original, but to be honest, that one was cool too. And for the most part, people just wanted to see that design translated into Legends of Runeterra. But instead, we got quite a redesign. The first thing you might notice is that the armor now has a lot more holes in it. This is supposed to underline that his soul is bound to his armor. That's what all the glowiness underneath it is about. But I have to say, the original Mordekaiser design felt a lot more solid. That one really looked indestructible. The new one feels a bit more destructible, because all of those holes almost show you weak points in his armor. It feels like that one is actually breakable. That's despite the fact that overall the entire armor actually looks larger. On the other side, I love how much more Noxian it looks now. It has all of those hard edges which you can find everywhere in Noxus, including the buildings and the armor, as well as the spikes all around, including the spiked breastplate. I even don't really mind the shoulders mimicking the Noxian structures. Although I did like the original flat shoulder pads a little bit more. There, the spikes are a little bit more horizontal, which makes the entire silhouette look like a tank. Again, it felt more indestructible. I also feel like all the new red banners are a great addition. Obviously, Mordekaiser is the OG Noxian. And in League, you can only see the Noxian banners on his back. There they have only a single symbol written in Noxian script on it. The new design leans a little bit more into the entire Noxian aesthetic with all the new banners on the front too. Which is where we might also point out the new Nightfall. Again, I really liked the original, although I will admit it looked a lot more flat. There wasn't much that would make it look unique. So, it makes sense for Riot to make one of the most legendary weapons in their universe stand out a bit. Especially since it's totally gonna be a legendary drop in the MMO. So yeah, I like the original, but I do like the new Noxian spikes on it. It is a great mix of the new VGU Mordekaiser, as well as the OG version of Nightfall. Yeah, don't forget, that one was spiky. But this takes us to one last element that people don't like on the new design. And I'll be honest, I am one of them. And that is the helmet. The first word that strikes me when I look at it is goofy. Part of it is definitely the open mouth. But now, for some reason, it also has tiny horns on the front. And then, of course, you have the overly long bunny ears. Which, to be fair, are supposed to represent the main pillars of the Immortal Bastion. Which, of course, Mordekaiser built himself. I mean, I don't think he really did it himself. I think there was a lot of slavery. Anyway, the original model also has these, but they don't look as ridiculous there because they are not as long. Though, in my opinion, the bunny ears are not really the main issue. The issue is the facial structure of the helmet. The original one looked menacing. It was the closed face with the glowing eyes that just sold you evil, while still leaning into the idea of being a walking bulk of iron. By giving it the open spaces and by revealing the mouth, you kinda go against the original idea of being an indestructible wall of iron. Now there are holes in the wall and it doesn't look as powerful anymore. So in my opinion, the overall design is good. But man, I really want the old helmet back. Just look at it. But surprisingly, that's not even the biggest thing people pointed out. That would be something else. You see, to me, it didn't really stand out because I know what Mordekaiser is about. But to others, the most surprising thing about the new Mordekaiser is the fact that he's blue. So let's explain it. See, at the beginning, Mordekaiser was a Noxian warlord who conquered the entire continent. That was until the world united to kill him. Most people should know his story by now. He went into the afterlife where he learned that there are no gods of death, and he got so angry, he became the god of death. And so he whispered into the world of the living, he got some followers, and he got resummoned into the world of the living, although his soul had to be bound by his armor. That's why he looks so ghastly. And so, as a spirit bound by his armor, he conquered the world again, before he was taken down the second time, after which LeBlanc banished Mordekaiser into his afterlife, and she secured his armor underneath the Immortal Bastion, so that his spirit couldn't be bound to it again. This way, she is essentially holding Mordekaiser back from coming back into the world. Nobody would want him to conquer the world for the third time. Not unless it's an MMO expansion. Anyway, that's the TLDR version of his story. The thing is, while Mordekaiser was in the realm of the living bound by his armor, he looked like this. Quite green, I might add. However, inside his own realm of the dead, the spirits are not green. That entire realm has a bluish hue. And we know this because while his splash art shows us the physical form, his short story revealed that this is what he looked like inside his own realm. So it is not only that Riot wanted to separate Mordekaiser from the Shadow Isles, because the two are essentially different forces of death, but it is also that canonically, Mordekaiser's own realm doesn't have the sickly green hues of the Shadow Isles. I mean, it kinda makes sense when you think about it. It seems like when something is bound to the physical realm, even though it is supposed to be dead, it has that kind of green sickly light. But in their natural form, spirits are blue. And this seems to be the case for both the spirits of the Shadow Isles and others such as Mordekaiser. I mean, this even goes back to Kindred. So on the front, I understand why people got confused that Mordekaiser is blue now, but it actually makes sense. That's both on the gameplay side and on the story side. But that's it for our TED Talk about Mordekaiser's design. The last thing we can bring up here is the community's reaction. As I mentioned, a lot of people didn't believe Mordekaiser needed a redesign, which is where most of these comments come from. I'm not a fan of his design change. Kinda mid compared to his LOL splash art. Ouch. That's actually the rare Runeterra design L. Just remember that a big portion of the community still likes the new design as it is. I'm just bringing up some examples to show you what people are talking about. So now, let's dive into what else was shown in the short teaser. First of all, we have Mordekaiser sitting on his iron throne. Remember that everything in his realm is crafted using souls. If an unworthy soul gets into his realm, he just shapes it into the form of a block for his kingdom. In fact, his giant mace was crafted using the souls of his original worshippers. And kneeling in front of him, we can see his first new follower. A chained abomination that was crafted using multiple different souls of warriors. Again, Mordekaiser is just all about slapping souls together and creating the army of the dead. Clearly the armor is Noxian, as it is similar to Mordekaiser's, and I love the massive butcher's blade. It is very much in line with the original Noxian weaponry. Some of the concepts then also tease some of the common soldiers. These should be properly revealed tomorrow. And we also get a concept for Mordekaiser's Herald. Remember that one day Mordekaiser will return to the world. He will be bound to his armor. That's simply because he's not dead. What is he gonna do? So he will enter the world through his little gap underneath the Immortal Bastion. And this Herald is trying to prepare the way. Then we also have some awesome chained enslaved footmen. It could also be just some of the slaves that built the Immortal Bastion. I love how they have slabs of iron just jammed into their bodies. It really shows how they are bound by armor. And that's not even talking about the awesome tower-based helmets. Next, of course, this new follower is Hecarim's cousin. I am joking, this has nothing to do with those, they are not even green. It's just another abomination Mordekaiser created by slapping souls together. I don't even think this is supposed to be a horse, it doesn't have hoofs. Remember that Noxus mostly has basilisks and the drakehounds. So it is possible that this is a soul of a drakehound merged with a lot of people. And at the very end, we can see Neela approaching Mordekaiser's worshippers, who gathered around a pillar. Whether this is a gateway into Mordekaiser's realm, I guess we will learn tomorrow. But it is still interesting to point out that if people are sacrificing souls for Mordekaiser, then it is all happening right under LeBlanc's nose. And finally, the teaser ends with Mordekaiser's level 2, which shows us just how massive Mordekaiser can get after absorbing more souls. I mean, yeah, it's gonna be a cool boss fight. I would still change the helmet though. Especially here, it doesn't really look menacing. So yeah, overall, I like everything that's around this. The blue color is totally fine, it makes sense. But the helmet, man, it's not the Mordekaiser I know. But that's where all the talk about Mordekaiser ends. However, that's not where this video ends. Because the second champion was also revealed, and this one is really cool, albeit it was predicted. And it's Morgana. Now, while there is not much to talk about here, there are some really cool details. First of all, her new design is quite faithful to the original from League. And still, some people made it awkward. However, she got an absolutely badass upgrade. You see, in Demacia, Morgana was always known as the Veiled Lady. This was frequently shown in, for example, the Mage Seeker. So what did Legends of Runeterra do? They gave the Veiled Lady an actual veil, and it looks amazing. Unfortunately, while she has it in her concept art, she probably won't have it in any of her champion art, because that would be quite the design change. So consider it more of her casual clothing. Although, a bit later you will see a Morgana shrine with that veil. So maybe that veil is more of her Targonian design? But again, she became an aspect way after she left Targon. Which means that even though yes, technically she comes from Targon, if you look around, things might look Targonian, but she is most likely in Demacia. These should be all the hidden places and hidden shrines which we saw in, for example, the Mage Seeker. With that said, there is one more thing which I have to point out. This. I have no idea what this is, and all I know is that it is badass. I can't wait for the cards to actually reveal this one. And lastly, there is one more detail that was teased, because there was a concept art for the aspect of justice. In other words, it is likely that this is Morgana's mother, Mira, before she fully embraced the celestial powers. And I'll be honest, this answers a lot of questions, as well as reveals some new ones. For example, how did she turn into that thing? Did it happen because she gave up on her powers and she gave her blade to her daughters? Is that what she looked like after the aspect dominated her mind, kinda like what happened to Atreus? Or can she just change appearances like Jaina? Well, thankfully, it also answered another big question, which the community asked about a lot. Yeah, now we know how their father had children with that thing.